Alright, so we're back home. We just got home from Idaho. Old motor here done good, but it's got about 28 licks on it. You normally put rings in it about every 15 or 20 runs with the amount of nitrous we spray. 6 kits, not real easy on the top rings. Don't make sense to break it down and put top rings in it when you can go ahead and replace all of them. So we're back home. We're gonna tear the motor apart and put a fresh set of rings in it and get ready for this next 6-week swing. We'll do a lot of time-lapse stuff, you know, speed up the process, but when we stop at something that's important, I'll stop and explain to y'all what I'm doing. So get ready. Got about 3 or 4 hours of work, so y'all stay tuned. So what we're doing now is on these big motors, belt on them so long that and the spring pressure is so high that you got to take all the rocker arms off in firing order. That's what your grandpa tells you when you're a little kid, but nobody ever does it. But I'll tell you what, on these things, if you don't do it, it'll rip the teeth off that belt. It'll drop a valve, and that fix is usually about $25,000 to $30,000 worth of machine work. So we're gonna finish getting these things off in firing order, and give you some more updates as we go. And as you take them out, you just want to kind of roll the rings, make sure everything's good with them. Obviously we know the rings are tired, but just want to make sure the ring landings are good, everything's moving. And so we'll take it out, we'll put new rings on it, and we'll shove it back in. This seems to be a pretty good one, so this one here, go back in the motor, be ready for Tucson. So we got all the pistons out, all the pistons seem good. So all it is, we're gonna change rings and put it back together. Next step is we're gonna ball home the motor. So first thing you gotta do is take some baby Q-tips and stuff in them holes on the crank to keep the oil journals clean, and we'll do that. We'll fast forward through that, and we'll stop and let y'all know what's next. Alright, so we're getting ready to ball hone our first cylinder. It's, you can look in there now and see what it looks like. Not the prettiest. It's got some passes on it, so it's supposed to look like that. So what you do is you clean it out, and then spray a little lube in there. A good bit of lube. I like to spray a little lube on this. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to go in there evenly, and you only want to go in 3 or 4 times. I like to go 4. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. On the 4th stroke, you pull it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. You don't think that'll do a whole lot? Clean it up and I'll show y'all in a minute. Alright, we got all the cylinders ball honed. Next step We're gonna foul fit some rings. We're gonna swap rings out after we get through foul fitting them, and we'll go back with them. Same thing y'all just seen coming apart, just the opposite direction. This thing could crank in a couple hours, but I got a week before I gotta leave to Tucson, so I'll probably just take a break for the night and go watch some Netflix or something. Start again in the morning. So the first thing you gotta do is foul fit all the rings. So what that means is you gotta put a gap in the ring while it's in the cylinder, and that lets the rings heat up and expand without touching. It's critical that you get the right gap, because if you get too much, you'll get blow by, get a bad leak down on the motor, and it won't run worth the shit. So anyway, on my old rings I go 030, and on my top and second ring I go 045. So it's just about 20 or 30 minutes of foul fitting rings, and I'll put them on the pistons, and I'll get back with y'all whenever I get them ready to go in. You want to try to get the ring and the cylinder in the same spot all the way around. I always just use a piston, a reference point, and push it down and get it where it needs to be. So once you get it in there and you get it all even, the feeler gauge, and this little gap in here, you just put the feeler gauge in it and check it and see if that's what you want. That ring there is good, so now I know I can cut the other one the same, and those two oil rings will be good. So it's just the same process, all 8 cylinders. It's 4 rings per cylinder, so it'll be a minute, but I'll get it done and I'll be back with y'all, and we'll put some pistons in. So we put a little transmission fluid in the cylinder over there. We sprayed some on the rings that helps them go in and helps them seal. So see if I can get this thing in first try. Once you get your pistons on your rods, it takes all the guesswork out of it after that. You don't have to worry about which way the piston goes in. Just make sure the number goes to the outside of the oil rail. This can be a little tricky, so let's see if we can get it. Put a little assembly lube on it.
So what you're saying is don't mess up.
Yeah. Sometimes they go right in and sometimes they don't. So, sucks. Number 1, so we'll put it at number 1. That went smooth. These piston installers are the key. So it's tapered at the top, and piston goes in and it squeezes your rings as you push it down. And it's got a little deal down here cut in it. It goes in the cylinder, keeps it lined up. So if you ever try to do these with like flathead screwdrivers at the racetrack or one of those tighten up type deals, it sucks. It'll make it miserable. This right here is a ticket. Next steps, we gotta put the rod cap on. Same thing, rod cap's got a number on it, so make sure you line it up on the same side as the number on the rod. It's kind of common sense. Never went to school for any of this stuff. It's just, if you got common sense, you can do it. So you gotta have somebody up top locking the piston down, especially when you got it in a car like this. So you can get it straight when it comes down, and you make sure the bearing don't fall out. All right, Chase. All right, that's it. You just kind of guide it onto the crank. Next step, put the rod cap on. These oil lines suck doing it in the car. Just gotta fight them. I like to just run them up to make sure I know they're tight, and I put all the pistons and rods in, and then I'll come back and I'll torque all of them at the same time. That way I don't forget any. So anyway, the GoPro battery's getting low, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick all these pistons in while we charge the battery up, and I'll get back with y'all whenever we're ready to put the heads on.
Well, dude, it's about time to go back together.
Fuck. Yeah. So we put all the new rings on the pistons, and we popped all the pistons in, and it's torqued. All the rods are torqued, and I went and cleaned the head gaskets. We're gonna reuse the old head gaskets. Put silicone everywhere it needs to be so I can stick the head on, and now that we got the GoPro charged, we're gonna do a time lapse on putting this thing back together. So, hope y'all enjoy it. All right, so we got the head stuck on there. Ran all the nuts down with a little impact. So it's just like any standard big block Chevrolet. They torque to like 70, 75, something like that. So what I always do is I go 65, 75. I just do 2 runs. You're reading that Google and all that tells you 3 runs, but I do 2 and it works out. So I'm gonna torque them real quick, and then we'll start putting the rocker arms on. So you get to understand it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my torque wrench up 10 more pounds and make a final torque. So we'll put it in time lapse for that, so you ain't gotta sit here and watch me turn this wrench the whole time. But just pretty much make sure on my heads that you do it in a couple different series, starting with a low torque, go to your final torque, and start in the middle and work your way out. Easy peasy. Alright, so we got the oil pan back on. We got the all the oil lines hooked up. Got the heads on, got them torque. Went in and hooked all our water lines up. Oil drain back lines. Everything we can hook up. So the next step is I'm gonna go ahead and put the rocker arms on. It's the same thing, you gotta put them on in firing order. Just cause like I said before when I was taking it apart, this big motor's just got a real long timing belt. If you try to turn it over without doing it in firing order, it'll jump a tooth on the timing belt. Cost you a lot of money. I know because I've done it. It was like a $24,000 bill the first time I done that, and that's how I learned. So everybody says you learn from mistakes. Well, that was a big one, but I won't ever do it again, I can promise you that. The first step is putting this on. This is the rack that holds all the rocker arms. And there's 4 bolts in this rack that actually go into the intake runner. So we went ahead, we've already cleaned them up, and we got a little dab of silicone on them. That's the only ones that you need to put silicone on. You know, you tear apart a lot of motors where somebody put silicone on every bolt, mainly just because they didn't know. But if I don't have to use silicone, I'm not, because it makes a mess. So anyway, like I said, these 4 bolts need silicone to seal off the hole going into the intake runner. This just kind of goes on here like so. On these big aluminum motors, you pretty much want to kind of start everything by hand. It's a nightmare when you go to stripping holes out. So once I get them all started, I usually get the impact. Oh, I use a little small impact. This one right here is it's a little Milwaukee. Like you can't really break anything on this motor with this, so I feel like it's safe. Go ahead and stick these 4 bolts in with the silicone. So all these bolts, they'll torque to 60, and I'll finish this side and I'll go do the other side, and then I'll start putting the rocker arms in firing order. So rocker arms, you got a 3/8 bolt and a 7/16 bolt. So 7/16 torques to 45, and the 3/8 bolt torques to, they say 25. I do about 30, 35. So that's it. When I get back with y'all, we'll have all the rocker arms on, put the valve covers on, and the next step will be installing the intake. So y'all give me a minute and I'll get done. Alright, boys and girls, that's how you freshen up a 959. I ain't Pat Musi, but save myself some money by freshening my own motors. Sure, a lot of you don't know that. Now when I tear up a lot of shit, I need machine work, go straight to Pat, because that's way over my head. But this thing right here is fresh. We'll bolt the intake on it in a little while, and we'll have some aero pressure. This thing will be pissed off, it'll be popping, and we'll get y'all a video of it, so y'all stay tuned. Hey Che, what button I gotta push to put it on time lapse? boys and girls? It's old Kye Kelley again, out here at the shop, tuning in. I got the intake on, put the headers on, filled up with gas, put oil in it, water in it, all that shit. So it should be ready to bust off. Put a little smoke in the pipes, see if we done a good job. If oil shoots out everywhere, I'll start over. But I doubt that's gonna happen. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
She's kind of pissed off, but the motor's healthy. I don't normally brag, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. If the good Lord lets me make it to Tucson, y'all all fuck.